Hey, what's up? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegas back with you. And of course, we are talking about this massive snow and ice storm that is moving coast to coast across the country over the next few days. Just look at how expansive the different advisories are from the National Weather Service, going from the West Coast all the way into New England. We are going to start with coast to coast in a minute to show you a broad overview, and then we are going to get detailed region by region to show you how much snow and ice is coming in your direction over the next 3 days or so. Oh yeah, I'm going to put chapters in the description below. You can click on the time. That'll take you exactly to where you want to go for whatever region you are looking for. Here we go. We're starting things off with coast to coast in a minute. Post in the comment section what the weather is doing where you are tuning in from. This is starting things off Wednesday, February 22nd, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. Here it is, our big behemoth system. You see the rain, the heavy rain moving into Pittsburgh, D.C., Kansas City at that time, getting some rain, and then the snow starting to develop on the back end. Look at the scope of this thing. Also on the West Coast, a new system pushing through. This is going to bring inclement weather to California all the way up the Cascades and Sierra Nevadas. You see some heavy snow even in the lower elevations. Watch what happens as we move into the afternoon. Our system really starting to take shape. You see the ice storm developing in parts of northern Iowa, southern Wisconsin, southern Michigan, and then getting into northern Pennsylvania. We're going to get much more in detail to that system in a few minutes, but note that we have some very heavy rain and snow again on the West Coast. This is going to be noon on the 22nd, and then we continue to deal with this bigger system that we are going to break down further right now. We are going to start with the Mountain West in terms of how much snow is falling over the next 48 hours. Some big-time totals in the higher elevations. Look at that, pushing 30 inches in the higher elevations south of Casper. Around Casper, we could get around a foot. For us into Montana, it's not as much in the lower elevations, right around 4 to maybe 6 inches of snow. Billings on the south side of town, we can get anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of snow. Same for us around Great Falls. Look at that, some higher amounts, of course, in the higher elevations. Right around Cedar City, Utah, about 9 inches. Again, these are going to be in the higher elevations. Salt Lake City, some big snows coming to the resort towns as well. So if you're a ski lover, this is great stuff. Rapid City will take a closer look at you in just a minute. But right off the bat, a good 6 to 12 inches of snow with higher amounts coming just to your east. If you just happen to find this video helpful, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. It really does help me out a lot. Here's a closer look at the Mountain West as this system really starts ramping up on Tuesday morning. You see some of that snow right around Cedar City towards Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon National Park as well. This is, again, going to be a great snowstorm for the resort towns in and around Salt Lake City. Clifton, we're going to get in on some of that snow. This is going to be 6 a.m. Mountain Time. Flagstaff, for us, we have that wintry mix coming down. Phoenix, it's just some plain old rain right now. North of Denver especially, nice little burst of snow. This is going to be a great snowstorm again for the mountains of Colorado. Farmington, this is going to be 10 a.m. We have a nice little bright banding feature, if you will, moving through. That's a nice little burst of heavy snow. And then this is eventually going to pinwheel to the west. Still some light to moderate snow falling as of dinner time. This is about 5 p.m. on Wednesday, and then we'll continue to be in and out of scattered snow showers as we move into Thursday morning as well. Now on to the bullseye of this system, not only for the snow, but also with the ice. So right here is the expected snowfall amounts. We're going to get to that ice storm. So if you're watching from Michigan or southern Wisconsin or northern Illinois, you'll want to stick around for that in just a minute. There we go. This is the bullseye here from about Pierre, South Dakota, through about Mankato, Rochester, Minnesota, right around La Crosse, Wausau, Wisconsin, then just south of Duluth, Twin Cities, really right in this bullseye here. That's where we could eclipse 24 inches. But everybody in that purple color there can expect a foot or more of snow. Now, a little further south, Sioux Falls into the southern Minnesota, northern Iowa border, right around La Crosse, 6 to 12 inches of snow is going to be possible. Same deal for us for Duluth, just south of Fargo, right around Bismarck into Mobridge. That's where a good 6 to 12 inches of snow could fall. I do think we're going to be a little bit closer, though, to that foot in Duluth, a little bit less just north of the city. Now, things get really interesting south of there, especially right where we're going to be looking towards Fond du Lac, have you right now on that 3 to 6, 6 to 12 inch line. I think you're going to get a good 5 or 6 inches of snow. But again, if we can have that colder air hang on a little while longer, we're going to get just a little more snow. So pay attention to that. Traverse City, we're looking at a good 6 to 12 inches of snow as well. But the very sharp cutoff in northern Iowa specifically, where there's that battle going on between the warm air and the cold air. I first want to show you future radar to give you an idea on when this is all coming, and then we're going to break down the ice storm side of this big system from Rhinelander down into the Twin Cities, back into Pierre, South Dakota. This is going to be 7 a.m. Mountain, 8 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday morning, February 22nd. Look at the heavy rain east of Oklahoma City, into Springfield, Trenton, Kansas City, Missouri as well. North of Indianapolis, north of Peoria, moving into Chicago, and then back towards Pittsburgh. Very heavy rain. We're going to take this out the next couple of hours. This is when the snow and ice really starts to ramp up. This is now 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central, noon Mountain Time. The darker blue here representing where we have very heavy snow from about Sioux City into Rochester, into La Crosse, Green Bay, also into Fond du Lac. Again, this is going to be 1 p.m. Central Time. Note this pink color. This is why our snow totals are so much lower in Milwaukee. That pink representing where we're going to have freezing rain. Also the same deal into Detroit. But note, in Saginaw, we have the blue. Certainly in Alpena, in Rhinelander, we have that white and blue color showing up, indicating where that's heavy snow. We're taking this out to 5 o'clock now on Wednesday the 22nd. Just look at how much heavy rain is falling around Chicago, Indianapolis, west of Louisville. That is some very heavy rain and thunder. The difference in temperature here, and I will show you that coming up in a few minutes as well, is going to be insane. Charles City, Iowa, we have the ice. Again, this pink color here represents where we have game on for an ice storm. I think the ice amounts are going to certainly be there in Detroit, but I think we're going to warm up enough where we turn to plain old rain as well. That certainly helps you out. It's going to be right around Grand Rapids. We're worried most about the ice, and then we're going to take this out even further as we start to wind things down. This is now going to be at midnight on Thursday morning. We still have snow on the back end of this from Green Bay to Rhinelander to Minneapolis, back to Sioux Falls. Some ice still falling to the west of Saginaw, and then eventually we're going to see things wind down. This is now going to be 6 a.m. Central Time, just some light snow falling back to the upper Midwest as the main part of this storm heads east into New England. There is just so much stuff. This is now the ice storm side of things. This is the probability of getting at least a glaze of ice. I wanted to show you the glaze first because it only takes a glaze to make travel really ugly out there. And we can see that really from central Iowa all the way into western Massachusetts. The darker colors here indicate the higher probabilities of that happening. Where we could have a full-on ice storm, some trees coming down, some power going out, is going to be right smack dab in south central Michigan. This is the probability for a half inch of ice or more. For things to be crippling or catastrophic in terms of ice, you really need it to be more than an inch. That's on the outside of probabilities, so that certainly could happen. But again, where we're looking for that possibility, that probability, is going to be around Lansing, Ann Arbor, to the east of Kalamazoo, we're right there, and then south of Grand Rapids. So really west of Detroit to Kalamazoo, south of Grand Rapids, including Lansing, that is where we are going to see the opportunity for a full-on ice storm. Where are all my Northeast friends? Post in the comments if you're watching from the Northeast. Here we go, 1 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. Some freezing rain moving into north central Pennsylvania. We have plain old rain towards Pittsburgh and into Philly, southern Jersey into D.C. It's going to be really warm. I will show you those temperatures in just 1 second. There's so much to break down with this storm. Taking you further out into Wednesday evening. This is 7 o'clock. We have the ice expanding again back towards Detroit, right around Buffalo as well, through the northern tier of Pennsylvania into southern New York towards the Finger Lakes. Boston, look at this. We're going to see a wintry mix. We will get a little bit of snow before we see the changeover. Fast forwarding to 1 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, that warmer air is really advancing up from the south now. That is going to help to change things over to a lot of freezing rain. Western Massachusetts back through southern New York, including Buffalo. We are still dealing with that freezing rain in Detroit as we extend things back. Note that snow starting to pick up in intensity. This is going to be 7 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. Still some freezing rain in southern Vermont, back towards Syracuse. Still dealing with a wintry mix now in Massachusetts, but some very heavy snow in parts of Maine, New Hampshire, into upstate New York, and then also into northern Vermont. Fast forwarding further, we start to see that changeover a little bit, but Montreal again, game on for some very heavy snow for us. And then finally, we see this wind down. This is going to be, by the time we get into Friday morning, just some light snow lingering. This is now 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon, February 24th. Keep on talking about you, Montreal. You're not included in this map, but you're going to get around a foot of snow in Montreal. Vermont, big snowstorm for you. Upstate New York, 10 to 16 inches of snow. You see that little flare up there, too, approaching 2 feet in the higher elevations there, closer to Mount Washington, New Hampshire. We've had a crazy winter. Remember that wind and cold just a couple of weeks ago. Boston, we could pick up about an inch before things change over. Again, nothing coming to New York City. Very light accumulations of snow on the Pennsylvania-New York border. But the game on snow really from north of Buffalo all the way through. Again, that purple color represents 6 inches or more. Once you start to talk about that pink, that's greater than 9 inches. So a lot of Vermont going to see anywhere from 8 to up to 16 inches of snow. Oh yeah, we could have records, all-time records, being shattered across parts of the South on the warm side of the system. We're starting things off on Wednesday, and one of the reasons why we're going to have an ice storm, big warm front extended across here, moving up into Pittsburgh. That's the leading edge of warmer air trying to advance to the north. As warm air is moving north, it goes up and over the colder air at the surface because warmer air is less dense. As that happens, we call it overrunning. That forces the air up. When air rises, it cools. It helps to create some very heavy precipitation that does start out as snow. Now, at the surface, there's still a little sliver of very cold air that is freezing or below in these areas. And as that snowflake that starts way up in the atmosphere falls through that shallow layer of warmer air that's advancing north, that little teeny tiny snowflake melts. And then once it goes back into that cold layer that is below freezing right at the surface, it freezes on contact with anything that is below freezing. And that's how we get freezing rain. That's the ugly stuff. So that is the reason why we are being robbed of a good snowstorm in Detroit, in Chicago, in northern Iowa, at least part of northern Iowa, because of this warm air lifting north with no big source of cold air to the north and east to counteract the advancement of the warm air advancing north. All right, anyway, that was a little nerdy for you. Here we go. Big time heat, pushing 90 on Wednesday in Orlando. Mid-90s in southwest Texas. 80s in central Tennessee. Low to mid-70s in parts of Oklahoma. We could have some nasty thunderstorms in this area. I'll show you that in just a second. Look at this. The heat continues into Kentucky. That's just Wednesday. Here we go on Thursday. You see the blowtorch really expand north. I mentioned earlier in the video, somewhere way back, I don't even know when that was. We've talked about so much together. We're pushing all-time record highs in central Florida on Thursday. But look at this. Huge snowstorm back here. Low to mid-70s from Pittsburgh to Columbus. Low to mid-80s in Nashville, Tennessee. Mid to upper 80s in parts of Mississippi. The 90s retreat a little further south into Texas. Mentioned this in an earlier video as well, that warmth is going to surge into Philly and South Jersey. We're talking New York City and North Jersey getting into the upper 40s, lower 50s for highs. but just about an hour drive or so to the south and west, it's going to be shorts weather in the low to mid 70s. Meanwhile, we have the single digits and teens for highs across the northern tier of the country, where that heavy snow that we just took a look at is going to fall. Forget about it back to the upper Midwest and northern plains. Brutal cold, high temperatures way below zero, wind chills way, way colder than that. It's going to be ugly in the upper Midwest and northern plains in terms of the cold. I wanted to give you a closer look at the severe weather side of this system. We are starting this off at 9 o'clock in the morning Central Time. Very heavy thunderstorms from about Fort Smith, Arkansas, into Springdale, into Springfield, southeast of Kansas City. Watch this line kind of blow up as it moves towards St. Louis and into Springfield, Illinois. Look at all the very heavy rain. Davenport, Iowa, Peoria, Illinois, Springfield, St. Louis. Again, the high-resolution models picking up on some bowing segments here. When you get those bowing segments, a lot of times behind that, you get that strong rush of damaging winds. So we're really going to be watching this area in particular as we get into Wednesday afternoon. Again, that's 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern, and then all of this heavy rain. Flood concern, no doubt going to be here for us in Chicago, moving into Fort Wayne, and then eventually Columbus as that line starts to peter out as it moves to the east. Ooh, that was a lot. And that was just one system moving across the entirety of the country, basically impacting more than 30 states on its journey. I hope you found it helpful and informative. If you did, please give this a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. Again, we're going to be tracking this thing all the way across the country on its journey through about Friday afternoon. Again, please, if you liked this conversation that we had today, consider subscribing. That would be awesome as we watch this weather community grow. Post in the comments again what the weather is doing in your part of the country, and we will catch you next time.